if you actually want to create a recurring revenue business, you actually have to create recurring value.
I remember working on a project once when I was back in my R&D days and IT infrastructure type days, and we were prototyping and testing these really cool technologies, and then we brought in the customer, and the customer's like, these are nice, but we don't really care that much about them. You need to be able to have people that can make decisions without the technology, and to create those, if you're using things like LLMs, prompts, but I think there's a huge human perspective of it that's going to be increased even more as the technology is actually coming in.
Welcome to Outsource to Profits. I have a fantastic guest here. Nilufer, do you mind taking a moment? Introduce yourself to the audience, what you do, how you help the world, and then we'll get into the topic of the week.
Sure, sounds great. So my name's Nilufer, and I run an organization called Spring2 Innovation. We do a lot of training, consulting, and coaching for organizations that are looking to align and grow their businesses through new product introductions. We've been in business for almost 14 years now, helping all different sizes of organizations, from small, medium to quite large, cross-country and global organizations as well too. I started my career as a software developer, and so the areas that I love talking a lot about are around software design, IT, digital transformation, and technology, but always the people side of it. And so the type of training that we do is helping people in organizations look at the people side of the challenges that they're facing, because at the end of the day, when I think back to my technology days, the hardest problems were the people problems, whether it's internal in organizations around alignment or external around making sure that we're having the right products for the customers that we have.
Fantastic. And today we're going to be talking about product design, innovation, having the cognitive horsepower or the moments to have those eureka moments to come up with your products. But I'm going to tell a quick story. This was told to me. So I've owned 3 agencies, and each agency has owned a plethora of products to serve customers, but they've all been either tech-enabled or very people-based. And it wasn't until the last couple of years, somebody had once said this particular line. They said, in the pharmaceutical industry, which is a larger business, the vitamin business or the painkiller industry? Yes. And the concept there is what you'll vote on that answer. But the answer is that the painkiller industry is 8 times larger than the vitamin business. And the purpose was to reflect back of my 15 years as an entrepreneur. And I caught myself, I invented a lot of products, and I would innovate despite the need for innovate. Like, I would innovate it to the point of my own self-perfection, but not what the customer needed. But I would do so many vitamin-based products, and I didn't realize I was doing that, rather than working with the customer to just, even though if I didn't maybe want to build this thing, this is what the customer actually wanted. This was the pain. So first question for you is, how do you motivate an organization that wants to build, like they want to go left and they want to build something that you know in your heart of hearts is a vitamin, it's a nice to have, rather than go through the pain and have a service or a product that is, maybe it's not even something that they're going to love, but they know is actually what the customer wants. Maybe, Can you chunk up at a strategic decision-making, like a mindset, how do you help customers get through that hurdle?
Yeah, a lot of the time, the methodology that we use is to go back and take a look at their customers and actually fully understand what their challenges are. I love the story that you told, because sometimes I'll use, are you a firefighter or are you doing fire prevention? And so if you are a firefighter, you'll always have business. If you're a painkiller, you're most likely to have business long term. And so when we work with our customers, we try to make sure that we understand what the customers feel the pain point is, because sometimes there are pain points that we think our customers have, but that's not necessarily pain points. And so trying to understand all the different types of customers that they have, and also understanding their customers too. So their customers, to figure out what are the different types of pain points that they have, and then pulling that back and trying to think, okay, what are people actually willing to pay for? And I think that's something that's really helpful when you go out and talk to your customers. I remember working on a project once when I was back in my R&D days and IT infrastructure type days, and we were prototyping and testing these really cool technologies, and then we brought in the customer, and the customer's like, these are nice, but we don't really care that much about them. And then they started to tell us what they really needed and what they'd be willing to pay for. And it was so different than what we had imagined from an engineering and technology type of a perspective that it switched what we were developing. And as soon as we hit the market with our product, it had instant sales because that is actually what the market really needed. And I think there's a difference between what the customers say that they want and what they actually want. And so really asking some questions to get at the heart of what customers really want rather than what they say what they really want. And then I always try to get customers to take a look at the bigger challenge that they're looking to solve for their customers. And so a lot of the time we work with B2B organizations, and so they have customers of their own. And so what are those customers really wanting, and then do they have other customers that we can build on top of? And oftentimes in short conversations, it's really easy to be able to tell that there's a customer segment or a customer type that is starting to evolve and get bigger that people haven't really necessarily noticed, and it's because there's a pain point that you're striking with them. And so either it's coming up with a new product or a new service, or helping them understand a new type of a customer that's evolving, and there's a pain point that you're solving for them that you can actually better understand and help others understand that that might be a pain point for them too.
You said something, because I want to hold this idea, and I'm going to tell a quick story around it. And I want you to double click into this. You talked about interviewing your customers' customers.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. We had a 2-point story. We had a customer recently, or somebody who wanted to become a customer of ours, but recently said, we have to pause because our customers are actually in the federal government. And if anybody's been following the news, they're at risk. And we didn't take a moment to actually study the prospect that we were about to win, their customers. And we should have known this coming in, that like, oh, this deal is probably not going to make itself. Somebody told me a couple of years ago, if you actually want to create a recurring revenue business, you actually have to create recurring value. The only way the recurring revenue and doesn't come into long-term churn issues is there has to be value to a pain point. Ideally, it's got to be a firefighter business, not a fire prevention business, that repeats itself every single month to earn yourself monthly recurring revenue. How do you work with the customer? How do you work with your customers to explore not only their customers, but their customers' customers? And again, come back to this idea that you might have to build something that isn't what you intended. And you talked about that software analogy or that story. You're going to have to build something you may not even have fun building.
Yeah.
So you have to take your cobbler's shoes, your hand-working cobbler sticks away for a second, and you actually have to build something that they want, and that this is going to create recurring value.
Yeah, it is tough actually, because a lot of the time, myself, even as a business owner, there's a way that I perceive the value that I'm bringing and the types of products that I want to be working on. But when we talk to our customers, sometimes those are quite different. And so it takes a bit of a mindset shift in order to get around, what do we actually want? Do we want to grow our business and actually increase our revenues, or do we want to hold on to that idea?
Or do you want to be an artist? Yeah.
Exactly. And some people do want to be artists, and that's totally fine, but it's helping people see the long-term impact of some of the decisions that they're making today in terms of shifting what they're willing to do. And so for businesses that have been through a lot of pain, it's a little bit easier. And I feel bad saying that, but they're done that cycle of trying, and they're at the point where they actually want to switch up how they're doing things. And that's, I think, when we usually get called in, is to help them take a look at what our customers are actually willing to pay for? And does that mean switching out of what they're normally doing? And I think this is going to be a huge problem. It already is, with so much technology coming into play and how people are doing things. I think what businesses are willing to pay for in the very near future is going to be quite different in many industries. And so it's going to take a lot of work of people pulling back and shifting their mindset of, what do I really want? Do I want to help my customers in the way that they want to be helped, or do I want to stick to what we've always done?
I think I'm reading between the tea leaves here. Is it your bet? So if you ever listen to a podcast called All In, there's a gentleman named Chamath Palihapitiya who's created a company called 8090. Listen, I'm in the labor arbitrage business for a reason. I believe there's an arbitrage there.
Yeah.
There's a software arbitrage that he believes is emerging, where the development costs of software is shrinking at such a dramatic rate that you'll be able to recreate some of the classic software that exists and all future software for 1/10 to 1/100th the price that you're at today. So building the $1 billion unicorn software company might not be the goal anymore. You might be able to build a $10 million business with 3 employees.
Absolutely.
Question, where do you think the puck is going? You're a fellow Canadian, so we'll use the puck analogy. Where's the puck going to the very point you were about to make, probably around software?
Yeah, definitely. So I totally echo your beliefs as well. I have 2 teenagers at home, and I see some of the software homework that they're doing for just even high school. One of them right now is recreating a little bit more rudimentary, but Angry Birds as an application, as a game to play. And because
in high school,
yeah,
I couldn't use a computer in high school. This is crazy.
Yeah. When I think back to what I was using in high school, my family had an IBM PC Junior, and I could barely do word editing on it. And now it doesn't take very much to be able to create games, to modify them, to make them even better. And that's just gaming. I think the platforms are already there. And then with technology advancing so quickly, and especially with the help of AI in developing some of these tools rather quickly, I think it's maybe a year or 2, and then you're going to really see the difference between businesses that are using technology to help speed up things and those that aren't. The thing that we're talking about is around new product introduction. And so you're always going to need to understand the people that you're creating these products and services for. And that's why that product market fit is so important. And then it's also working within your organization, because you're going to need to not only have the technology, but the people that are willing to and able to work together to really optimize on that technology, because technology itself isn't enough. You need to be able to have people that can make decisions without the technology, and to create those, if you're using things like LLMs, prompts. But I think there's a huge human perspective of it that's going to be increased even more as the technology is actually coming in. As
we wrap up, you talked about you have a methodology to doing this analysis. Do you mind kind of briefly walking people through how you codify going through this experiment with founders?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have our own methodology called Deeper Clarity Method, and it's based off of design thinking. And so the first thing that we do within organizations is make sure that everyone is aligned, everyone understands the organization's strategies. And when I say everyone, it's usually the senior leadership team that we're working with. And then as we're thinking about the new types of products or services that the organization wants to develop, understanding their customers and empathizing with them at a deeper level before we define what the problem is actually that the organization is going to solve. And then, of course, doing prototyping and testing with actual clients, and constantly looking at what's happening in the industry that they're in, as well as other industries, and what's going to be happening in the near future. We don't have a crystal ball, but there are signals in terms of what customers are doing and how they're shifting their behavior, as well as some data out there that you can bring into thinking about the types of challenges that your clients are having, whether those are going to be shifting, or whether the types of solutions that you're going to develop are going to be shifting based on sociopolitical, economic, technology type of environments. And so it's really in-depth looking at what the customers are saying right now and what are the signals for what's going to be happening in the future. A lot of the types of organizations that are out there right now, internally, especially when they're solving problems, it's usually today's or yesterday's problem. And so what do we think? How can we phrase things in a way that we're also thinking about the future problems that we're going to be having? And that's where I talk a lot about AI and technology coming in earlier. And then the final stage of what we do is we bring in that mindset. So in organizations, a lot of the time we don't think about the people mindset. I think it's being talked about more and more. And so in the different phases of a project, in the different parts of the organization, the mindsets that people have as they're starting a project, going through it, ending it, and always with organizations having that end user perspective, that end user mindset, so that they're going to be a lot more successful. I think a lot of what I want organizations to be able to do is have everyone in their organization understand their customers as well as the C-suite does, so that they can actually take steps to execute on the strategy and also make decisions on their own, so that the customers are always put at the forefront. And that's that end user mindset.
This was fantastic. Thank you so much for being on Offshore to Profits. How do people get a hold of you if they want to learn more?
Yeah, thanks so much. I'm always available on LinkedIn, but the best way to get a hold of us is through our website. And it would be really helpful if people want to learn more about what we do or how we do it, is to sign up to our email list. We have free monthly webinars that people can listen in on in terms of what we think is going on, what are some cool things that are happening out there, and then also to better understand the deeper clarity method as well too. And so the best way is through our website to sign up for our weekly newsletters, our quarterly newsletters.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much, Amy.
Thank you.